Well, I thought we'd try another chapter, a shot of a video. I have a bad habit. I've had several people say, "Ron, don't touch your face while you're on camera." It's a hard thing to do. My nose itches and I want to scratch it, so you'll just have to ignore me. You've seen lots of early stuff. You've seen other things. Now into some other things. Novelty transistor radios. I kind of got into them by accident. I had a good friend here in the area that bought the first transistor radio I ever saw a radio collector buy at a radio meet in 1978. And I went, "What in the world are you buying that for?" He said, "You just wait. They're going to come in." In the 80s, middle to late 80s, along in there, my wife took a job working for the post office where she worked most every Saturday. So Saturdays were my day to go play, go to flea markets, go to yard sales. My best friend and I, Mark Cleary, he went with me a lot, and we'd get up on Saturday morning early, and we'd go out and we'd hit the yard sales and the flea markets. And back then, well, you could buy transistor radios for 50 cents, $1, sometimes a quarter, you know. For a long time, I don't think I ever paid more than $1 for a transistor radio. And what I would do is I would collect up a grocery bag full of them, and I'd take them down to my friend, and I'd trade them to him for something that I wanted. Well, this worked good for a couple times, and then he ran out of anything to trade. And but I still had the bug for buying it. You know, collecting is like a disease, or like an addiction. Addiction, I guess, is a better word. You know, if you go out on a Saturday hunting and you don't find anything, you come home, you're all bummed out. "Oh, I didn't find a thing." But if you go out, and even if you just come home with, you know, a ladybug transistor radio, you found something. It's kind of cute, you know. They're neat, colorful. Most of the people that see my collection identify more with this stuff than with the early stuff. Most of them wouldn't know, you know, that loot sitting there was a radio if I didn't say that's a radio. So they fed the addiction. So for a long time I started buying them. I had 50, and then I had 100, and then I had 200. I don't know how many I've got. I hadn't counted in a long time. I quit counting them. I don't want to know. I haven't bought any in a long time. But when we were building the room, another good friend of mine came up and said, "I've got a glass shelf that came out of a store that," he said, "you need for your display room." So we went up and got it, and that's what this, I think they call it, technically it's called a float. It's a freestanding thing with glass shells on it. Works great. I've got, you know, I have lots of things, you know, space shuttles, ships, old fire engines, globes, telephones, a fort, jukeboxes. Then you get down into the advertising, character radios, and a good one that a real good friend of mine that recently passed away got me. John Jordan found the Raid bug for me. I understand they're very hard to find, and the antennas aren't broke off them. You know, the Tony the Tiger, the Raisinette, the Raisins, Singing Raisins transistor radio. I think there's a whole bunch more of those. You know, lots of characters here, there, kind of thing. And then cars, lots of cars. I've got an Evel Knievel, batteries, and all different kinds of cars and different things. I'm gonna try picking the camera up. I don't know what it's gonna look like when we get done. It'll probably be shaky as I'll get out, but I'm gonna come in a little close here and see if we can just kind of pan across and see what we've got. See the other things kind of up close here. I know you can't see it the other way. And but you know, down here there's a Jimmy Carter peanut radio. I keep threatening to, if you see him in town, he does a lot of Habitat for Humanity stuff. I'd like to go to some one of those sometime and get him to take a Sharpie, get him to autograph that. And other stuff on across here, characters and cars. And, you know, I like cars. You know, what boy doesn't like cars? So you get cars and a radio too, then that makes it that much better. So we're on down here and other stuff. Sometimes the shelf collects other things other than the transistor radios. We'll swoop up and around, do a little fly around the room here to the other side. And we get over here and we have more advertising things, ketchup bottles and radios in the shape of a radio box that says radio, and down all across here, Mickey Mouse stuff. There's lots of Mickey Mouse and that kind of thing. Sports stuff. I'm not much into sports, but if it's a radio, I'm going to want it anyway. And we'll sweep up across here, and there's some others up on the wall shelf here, and we'll swoop down across the wall shelf. And then over on this side are more pocket transistor radios. Let's see if I can do a little zoom here. And we get up over here, the little turquoise Motorola you see sitting there. There's a pair of them. Well, the ugly one was my first transistor radio when I was a kid. And when I started collecting and I discovered eBay, I found one on eBay, a nice one to put beside of it. But lots of radios. Kind of neat two pieces on the wall there. They're made by Delco, and they're made to have in their service centers, and they show the inner workings. They were never sold, but it just shows the inner works, the guts of a Delco car radio, and one of them's in English and one of them's in German. So we'll swoop on back around here, and this is probably going to make everybody sick, all this swooping around. And we'll finish that off with something nice. There's my Federal Model 61. I'll show on that one for a minute here. 1924, real nice set. This one is particular interest is that it is, for all intents and purposes, new. It's never been played. It's got a seal from the factory over the tube island, and it's never had a tube plugged into it. I'll do a talk about it later on, but we'll wrap that up for now. Sweep back around a little bit, zoom back out, and maybe scan across some of the tube collection here. And I'll talk more about tubes later on too. We'll see how that looked, and if it looks okay, I'll put it up on the YouTube here directly. Thanks for visiting, and we'll do this again.